So I'm going to be showing us how to use pivot table. So this is Excel. This is the movie data. I'm just going to use this because it's a common data that we have for this class. So if you want to work on a pivot table is one of the most important tools when it comes to analytics with Excel. Okay, so if you go to the top of the Excel sheet, you'll see some tabs there. You see File, Home, Insert, Draw, Page Layout, Formulas, blah, blah, blah. What we need for this pivot table is the Insert tab. Let me quickly tell you something again about the sheets in pivot table. If you want to use pivot table, you have to make sure that there's no empty row or column in your data set. If you scroll all the way down, you will see that they are all filled up. But make sure you check, no matter how big your data is, check to be sure that there's no empty row or column. The ones that are empty, I believe there's something in there. It could be zero, it could be some funny characters in the cell, but it is not empty. So if you now see any data in the Excel sheet that you're not familiar with, or you don't like, or you want to remove, you can do that during the data cleaning part of your work. So you go to Insert. You can just do that you can do that with me so that you understand it. I know some of us know about this already, but let me just brush over it. So there are two tabs for pivot table. There's recommended pivot tables, which is going to show you options. If I click on that, you can see these are different options of tables that you can create. These are pre-created tables or already created tables or auto-generated tables that you can pick from. But I always like us to use our custom table because it makes us to work on what we want, based on our needs. So I'll go back to Insert and I select pivot tables, and automatically that selects our table array, which is all the data in our table. You can see it is selected. You can see the green line dancing around that data. So that means it's all selected, and it's asking if you want to put it in a new workbook. And I'm going to select that so that it's separated from the data itself. We can delete it if we want, we can change it, but it doesn't affect the raw data that we use. So I'm going to click OK. And so it brings us here. This is everything about pivot table. What it does is that it brings all the column titles into this part. That's the pivot table fields. These are all the different things we have in that data set. All these things you're seeing are the column title. If you go back to that, you see all of them: the budget, journal, the movie ID, original language, blah, 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 all the way down. And that is what it gave us in the second sheet as the pivot table fields. So we have 4 field areas. We have the footer, we have the columns, we have the rows, we have the values. So all these have functions that they perform depending on what you want to do. So let me quickly look at, let me take journeys, because that's the major things. Those are the different genres of the movies that we have in this data. And I'm going to take, I clicked on John and I dropped that in row. So it brought it here for me. It's a drag and drop tool, like so. And you can take it out if you want to. Just click on it and drag it out. It takes it out. If you want to bring it back in, just pick it and drag it anywhere you want to put it. You can see that green line on top of it. So it just put it anywhere you want to put it. But for the sake of this training, I'm going to drop it in rows so that it just highlights all of them for me in the row section. And the next thing I want to pick the revenue, put that in value. And I'm going to pick the budget. In this case, the revenue is the income, the budget is the total money that we spend. And as I drop it, you can see that it's creating that table for us automatically. Pivot table is one of the easiest ways to analyze data, right? So the moment you click out of that table, the fields disappear. If you go back to it, it comes on. So if you go to pivot table analyze, everything you want to do on your pivot table, you see it in pivot table analyze, all right? Everything you're seeing here have functions. You can drill down with this button and you can drill up. You can also insert slicer. If you want to work on this and you want to select specific information, you can select, you can insert slicer right? This is the slicer, and you can select what you want to put. Let's say I pick the journs and I insert slicer with that. So what it did for me, it just gave me all the functions, all the journ, the titles, movie titles, depending on their journ. So if I pick action, it's just going to select everything about the action and the total, and it sieves out, filters out every other thing, like so, right? So that's the work of the slicer. I'm going to take that out, and I want to show us another thing. So if you want to drill down, this is the sum, right? And you want to change that sum to maybe count or average or something else. Let's say I want to sum the revenue. I want to change the information on the revenue. I go to that, come to the field under value, right? Please let me know if you have any questions. Under values, you see the down arrow there. Click on that down arrow, right? So go to value field setting, right? And this box is going to show on your screen. And then you see all the various options you can pick. Currently, what we have is the sum. So we're going to change it to count and click OK. So it's just going to count. If you click OK, it changes it to count, as you can see, because we selected the revenue. So if we go back to that place, we don't want to see the count anymore. Go back to that field and select average. It's going to change it to average. You can see the numbers changing. So I'm going to change it back to sum. So from here, you can select whatever you want to change it to. You can select the maximum, the minimum, the product, which is the multiplication, and so on, standard deviation, and then variance, all of them. But I'm going to change this back to sum. This is just to give us an idea of what this is all about. And another thing you can do, you can also create a calculated field. If you want to create a calculated field, you're going to bring in data that is not originally in the data that we have, okay? And it's going to drop it in the field section. Like, let's say we want to find the profit. Yes, we want to find the profit. This is the revenue. This is the budget, right? This is the total money that this company made, and this is the budget, the cost that it took them to actually put up this project. So, and this is what they made. You can do that by using calculation, pulling out the equal sign, and then you pick the revenue, you deduct it from the budget, and you click enter. You get this, right? So this is actually what you're going to get. This is the profit. But if you don't want to go that route, you can use calculated field to do that. Go to pivot table analyze and go on top of this. You see the fields. This is the formula. I don't know if you can see this. You see fields, item, and set. That is the formula. That's where you pick the formula. You can see the FX, which is the formula. Click on that. And then you see calculated fields. Click on calculated fields. And so you're going to see this box that will pop up. You will see name field. So that is going to be the column title. So I'm going to change it to profit, right? Let's call it gross profit, right? So you come to the formula, you take it away from 0. So what do you want to calculate? I'm going to go ahead and pick the revenue, select the revenue, insert that, and we deduct it. You put the minus sign, just as I put here, you deduct it from the budget. All right. Insert field. You can see from here that we said formula equals, always remember to put the equal sign so that you can calculate your formula. So formula equal to revenue minus budget, and then you add field. The moment you do that, click OK. You can see automatically we got that inserted. And what that did also, it gave us that field, auto-generated that field for us. So you can do a whole lot. If you want to change this is absolute value. And remember when we calculated, we got this value, right? When we deducted this from this, the revenue from the budget, we got the same thing. If I put the comma sign there, you can see it's the same value, right? So that's a very easy way to use pivot table to run your analysis. There are a lot of things you can do with this go ahead and watch that video, but this is very important. I just felt I should quickly let us know. You can change this profit to percentage, right? If you want to do that, right click on that, and then you go to show value as, click on that. You will see various options that you can change that value to. Let's say we want to change it to percentage of grand total. Click on that. You can see, right, you change it to percentage, and you can see this is the highest, and then you can sort this. If you want to sort this, go back to home, and then you can sort from largest to smallest. You can see that it picked from largest to smallest. What it did, it just picked that column, only that column it worked on. So I'm going to stop this pivot table class, and then we go into Python. If you have any question, let me know.